Want to know why this video almost didn't get made? And do you want to know why I was pretty much gonna quit YouTube altogether? Well, stay tuned to find out. Hi, my name is Crystal Wood. I am the co-founder of You Grow Girl, and I am also a childhood sexual abuse survivor who has found my path to healing. This will be my final video in the series, Taking It to the Grave. If you've missed part 1 or 2, I suggest you click on the link that's up there in the right corner and watch those first, and then you can come back and catch me here after. So I've talked with you about what it was like to disclose to both my mother and my best friend, my big brother, Justin. And now it's time for me to share with you the moment that I disclosed to my father. Okay, my dad is a big guy. And when I say big guy, I mean like just a large man, size 13 feet, huge hands, and a head so big he got nicknamed Pumpkinhead. True story, my kids to this day still call him Grandpa Pumpkin. Here's the thing about my big, gigantic father though. He is also a big, gigantic teddy bear. With a mellow vibe, a good sense of humor, and a really sensitive soul, he's got one of those personalities that people are just drawn to. Though as the years go by, he is starting to grumble and mumble a little bit more like an old man. But in all seriousness, my dad would be described as a lover, not a fighter. The day I decided to tell him, well, it was unexpected. I had left therapy that day and I had headed to the gym. We had spent a little time in therapy talking again about the detriment of holding on to such a secret. We talked about how I would feel if I knew this had happened to a loved one of mine. Would I want to know? Would I want them to protect me from this secret? See, that's the thing about telling my dad. I knew it was going to carry a whole other level of pain for him than it did for my mom and my brother. And for so many years, I wanted to protect him from that. I would think to myself, how can I crush my dad's heart like that? How can I destroy his whole world with just one sentence? I thought I was tough enough to carry this secret to the grave so that I would never have to do any of those things. So after leaving therapy, I was still not convinced that my dad needed to know. I headed to the gym, and shortly after I hit the bike, I started to warm up. The anger crept in. My warm-up soon turned to a full-on race, and the faster and harder I pedaled, the angrier I became. I pedaled away so much, and as I pedaled, I got in touch with that anger. He had done this to me. He was the one who was about to break my father's heart, not me. He betrayed him, not me. He lied. He manipulated. He deceived, not me. Not me, I thought as I pedaled harder than I ever had in my life. I didn't do this. I gasped myself out on that bike and the tears began to fall. I knew in that moment I had also had to tell my dad. I'm not sure how I decided. I just felt it in my heart. I took myself to the change room, shaky and weak. I threw a hoodie on and I headed to the car. I was so scared now because I knew I was going to do it. I knew it was time. And I knew if I didn't do it now, I was never going to have the courage again. I phoned my mom and I told her what was happening. She insisted on driving me there as she was worried about my state of mind. The ride to my dad's house was about an hour away. The entire drive was silent. I knew I couldn't talk about anything. And my mom, using her Spidey mom sense, must have picked up on that because she remained silent too. A rare occurrence. We arrived in silence, and as we walked in, I noticed my dad looked nervous. I had texted him to let him know I was coming and that we had to have a talk. I had assured him everyone was okay, but when you get a text like that, I imagine you can't help but start to worry. I found out later he thought I was going to tell him I was pregnant. Boy, was he wrong. I didn't try and make small chat or even ask how he was doing. I couldn't. The tension and emotion in the room was just too great. I told him he needed to sit down for this, and that's when the nervousness inside his eyes turned to fear. He sat next to me on the couch, kind of facing me, and said, "Hon, what's going on here? You're scaring me." I remember telling him that what I was about to say was going to hurt him, but that I needed to know it wasn't going to change our relationship. At this point, he started crying and said, "Hun, nothing could ever come between us. You can tell me anything." See, that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid the loving, lighthearted, fun relationship I had with my dad, the man I got every year on April Fool's Day, the man that loved to give me a hard time and I loved to joke with, I was afraid what I was about to say was going to take that all away, that it would cast a shade of darkness and sadness on us. I was afraid it would never be the same ever again, and I had already lost so much, I didn't want to lose that. In episode 2 of this series, I talk about being prepared for emotional shock. Well, this is the moment that I was witness to it. I looked up, and I mustered enough strength to look my dad in the eyes. And I said, "Dad, when I was a kid and we first left the farm, up until I was around 10 or 11, Grandpa sexually abused me." Terror. Pure terror is what I saw in my dad's eyes that day. I can still see the look on his face when those words left my mouth. He shot up from the couch and he yelled, "What? What? I don't understand," he said. "I don't understand," he continued to yell. He was pacing back and forth and holding his chest, yelling, "No! No, this can't be! No! Please, no!" At this point, my mom, fearful he might have a heart attack, jumped in. She convinced him to sit back down on the couch next to me. I was weeping, trying to hold it together. And that is when the questions began. How? How long? When? Where? How come you never told me? And the question I always hated the most. What did he do to you? Said through tears and devastation. My answers were simple and to the point, prepared because that's what my therapist had helped me do. I knew the questions that were coming and I had already decided how I was going to answer them. Something that is so crucial because there is no thinking clearly about anything in a moment like that. There is just pure, raw emotion. That is the only way to describe it. As I answered his questions, my 6'3" giant pumpkin head father began to fall apart. He was broken. There wasn't much I could do at this point to console him, and to be honest, the intensity of emotion was becoming almost too much for me. I asked him if he wanted some time alone so that he could process, and he nodded his head yes, still unable to speak. I stood up from the couch, as did he, and as I went to give him a hug, he began to crumble again. I let him sit back down, told him I loved him, and I walked out the door. I knew that his grieving had just begun. And I went home that day with an ache in my heart so powerful it physically hurt. I knew my dad's world would never look the same again. So that was the moment, my heart-wrenching truth, and probably the most difficult part of my entire healing journey. Shortly after that day, my father went to visit my sweet, amazing therapist, Linda, and to this day I'm not sure what they talked about or how she helped him, but I know that she did. So what was my purpose for sharing you one of the most difficult moments of my life? Well, if I'm being honest, I almost didn't make this video. I had planned to. This story is burned into my memory clear as the day it happened. So I knew I could tell it, but I froze. And if I'm telling the truth, over the last few months, I have contemplated not filming anymore at all and quitting YouTube. See, I wasn't sure if my videos were helping anyone. I was second guessing being so vulnerable, putting myself out there, being and feeling so exposed. And for what? I needed to know that all of the anxiety and trepidation was for a reason. The final video in my series, Taking It to the Grave, well, it was particularly hard. So the fact that this was the video I planned to film next, well, it made me want to quit even more. So what made me change my mind? A survivor reached out to me, and without getting into too much details, she shared with me that my Taking It to the Grave series had inspired her to come forward to share with her family her truth. But to her heartbreak and devastation, and to mine, she wasn't believed. And that was it. That was my why. And I knew what my message in this video needed to be. Today, my message is for everyone who has had a loved one disclosed to them, and for everyone in the future who will have a loved one disclosed to them. Okay, I want to start by giving you a statistic. My sister-in-law Leia would be so proud of me because she loves statistics. But did you know that approximately only 4% of all child sexual abuse claims are fabricated? 4%, that's it. And did you also know that that percentage is no higher than any other false claim of any other crime, and in some cases it's lower? If someone discloses their abuse to you, chances are they are telling the truth. In fact, you have a 96% chance that they are telling you the truth. Seems like pretty good odds to me. Let me ask you this. If someone were to guarantee you a 96% chance of winning $1 million if you choose option A over option B, would you choose option B? Well, when a survivor discloses their abuse to you, I can promise you, you are gambling with a lot more than $1 million. You are gambling with this survivor's life. That's how serious this is. That's how much your response will affect them. So go with the favorite, double down, take the chances on the odds, and for fuck's sakes, please, please give survivors the benefit of the doubt. Don't you think after what they've been through, they've earned it? You have so much power to help a survivor heal just by believing them. I beg of you, don't cover it up. Don't shy away from it. Don't protect yourself from the pain. Believing them does not make you a bad person because you didn't know or see or suspect before they told you. Like I said in some of my other videos, abusers are stealth. They rely on the shock and shame of it all so that they can keep their dirty little secret. But what you do now matters, and it matters so much more than you know. Please do not re-traumatize a survivor by questioning the validity of their claim. I can promise you the guilt, shame, fear, and pure panic that goes along with disclosing this kind of thing, I can promise you nobody chooses this. Nobody makes it up for the drama. This isn't an attention-seeking topic. This is gut-wrenching, embarrassing, want to crawl into a hole and never come out kind of truth. If you deny a survivor's truth, you tell them that they are alone in this, that their pain doesn't matter, that they are not enough. My father stood in my pain with me that day. He gave me the gift of knowing I mattered, and though it shattered his heart in ways that can't fully be described, his willingness to suffer with me and to allow his heart to feel the truth, well, that was a bigger part of my healing journey than I think he will ever realize. So I beg of you, to anyone out there who has had someone disclose to them or who will have someone disclose to them in the future, walk in their pain with them. Let the truth into your heart, no matter how wretched it is. Believe them. If you are a survivor and you need someone in your life to hear this message, then please share with them this video. I want to finish this video by giving out a huge shout out to my dad. Do you want to know what he said to me when I asked him if it was okay for me to share this story, his story? He looked at me and he nodded his head as his eyes welled up with tears, and he said, "Of course, hon, if you think it helps." With no question and no hesitation. And this cannot be easy for him. Yes, my whole family was affected by this, but his pain, well, it has a whole other level because it was his father who abused me. He knows I'm sharing this with the world, and everyone he knows and loves will see it. This is a heavy amount of shame that he carries. A shame that is not his to carry, but nevertheless he does. And yet his answer to my question about telling his story, sure, hon, if you think it helps. That's what it means to stand with a survivor. Dad, I hope you made it to the end of this video today. Justin told me you usually have to turn them off partway through because sometimes it's just too painful to watch. But if you made it to the end and you're listening right now, thank you, Dad. Thank you for believing me, for believing in me, and thank you for not just supporting this crazy adventure we call you Grow Girl, but for getting down in the trenches with us and giving up everything to be a part of it. What a beautiful journey we are on. I love you. Until next time, stay strong, trust in the process, and show yourself a little forgiveness.